It's Don here from the board. Thanks for coming along and checking out this video. So today we're going to get a bit more artsy and we're going to have a look. I'm going to check out some thoughts and a bit of play around with what I've done on embroidered or kind of cross-stitched keycaps. Now the background to this particular video and what I'm about to do, what I'm about to show you and my messing around with really comes from a keycap design by Billy Rubin. Now I know Billy from the Australian keyboard community. She is an absolutely amazing 3D print guru. She's actually done a lot of things. She's been published in a couple of different areas, which we'll have a look at anyway. And she's even given a keynote presentation as part of like a 3D print design forum kind of thing in her own hometown. So a couple of weeks back, Billy was like, hey, you know, I'm running a Twitch stream, going to design a keycap with something I've got in mind, come along. And I actually sat in on that particular Twitch stream and got to see this magic happen. And then of course she had the photos of the end product, which was a resin printed embroiderable or cross-stitchable keycap, which was really cool. So I want to share off on her actual website. So this is Billy Rubin's website. You can see it's just billyrubin.info up the top here. Okay, and you can see that her work's been highlighted in Adafruit, Make and Hackaday. And this particular cross-stitch keycap, very recent in Hackaday, is this particular thing. So it's a 3D model that's had a number of holes punched into it into a grid format using her parametric keycap model that she put together. That was really fun to watch her do that and answer questions about that on the actual Twitch stream. Of course, you can check out her Twitch stream through the links in her actual website and her Twitter feed. And the end result is something that you can run, thread through, and make your own patterns. So it's pretty nifty. Now, for me, I don't have a resin printer, and I really love this idea. And I've done cross-stitching, embroidery type of stuff before, and I thought, how can you get around that if you wanted to do something similar? Now you'll see, because I didn't actually see these threads, because I already started having these ideas when Billy was actually doing the design of this keycap on the stream, but people talk about hand drilling, for example here, into the actual keycap. And so that's kind of the way that I actually went. So let's just switch over and down to my usual desktop, try and bring that into focus. There we go. So I have a pin vise. It's basically just a hand thing with a clamp on the end that you can change out into thin drill bits. So you can get drill bits like this and you'll see they go all the way, you know, from point something to 1.6 mil in this particular set. And I went and did that. I actually started off with one cap and I just did the corners, and then I did some holes in the center, and it was okay. It took a long time. So then I thought, well, I've actually got a tabletop drill press, which is this thing. And so there's a video available somewhere on the channel about me putting this together and reviewing it. It's just a very simple lever arm. And then I thought maybe I could actually do a grid with that. And so I took another keycap and I tried to put in some holes, but it was really challenging. It was really jank. So it wasn't even, it wasn't easy to do. It's really hard to hold this, you know, in the actual position underneath it and maneuver it without potentially getting into my fingers. And that was quite challenging. Now this keycap here that I did, which you can see the actual holes, this is hand drilled using the pin vise. So this actually had better results because I could control it, but it was much slower, and while trying to position them, the spacing was actually quite big. Right, so this is a 1.2 mil, I think, was the size of this particular one here. 1.2 mil bit. So I was like, I want to go in between because I want to get more holes. I want to get a better sort of resolution, I guess. And I ended up switching to a much smaller size, which I think was the 1mm on that. Well, 1 to 1.2 really, or 1.5 isn't really that much of a difference. But then I was like, I also want to speed it up by using this. So here is a grabbag DSA keycap, and I use the drill press with that smaller bit, and I just went around by hand, no markings, and I tried to drill a number of holes around it. Why did I not go through the middle? Well, from my experience in doing the other two keycaps, it is really hard to get even holes. And what that means is you're not going to be able to do a nice neat pattern because your grid marks, unlike this one here, which is digitally designed, is going to be uneven, which means when you try and actually stitch it, it's going to look really, really horrible. So my solution to this, which you can kind of see I've done something on these other two keycaps, which I haven't shown you, is do actual embroidery or cross stitch. So what I mean by that is you're going to need your needles anyway, and you're going to have your thread. Now I don't have actual cross stitch or embroidery floss. I've just got normal thread, and I'm not going to use my wife's good stuff. I've just got some really cheap, horrible, nasty stuff. And this is Aida cloth. This is the bog standard Aida cloth that you can buy from any of the craft shops that supply embroidery or cross stitch material. It's a woven material that's got holes in it at a particular spacing. So this one has a pitch of 5.4 per centimeter. I bought this at a local large chain store that sells craft kind of supplies, and it was actually the cheapest that they had available, which cost me 20 bucks for a packet of this. The other stuff that was cheaper actually was out of stock. So 20 bucks for a sheet that big, but you know what, it's big enough that you can do heaps and heaps and heaps of keycaps. So what you're going to need besides that obviously is something to mark what you're doing, and you can trace it out and you can cut it out, make a pattern, stitch it, and then the magic is how do you get this onto the keycap. So what I'm going to do now is we're going to cut to a time lapse where I'm just going to put a pattern onto this, and then I'll show you, I guess you'll see the end result of this one anyway, but I'll show you some of the other harebrainedness that I came up with the other two keycaps that I haven't actually shown you. So we'll be back soon after this. Alrighty, let me adjust my microphone. Okay, so we're back. Now, if you actually watched through this and you didn't skip through it, that was 41 minutes for me to actually plan out, cut, and then stitch together this IV cross-stitch keycap. Now, this is a little bit different to the other ones that I've got that you already saw the 1U of, because this one here, which says the board podcast, isn't technically cross stitch. It's really more embroidery because it's not crosses, but it's the same concept, because essentially what I've done is I've done it on the Aida cloth, and then I've actually just done around the circumference to hold it in and pin it in, and you can sort of see the end result of that utilizing a whole bunch of the actual random holes, whichever ones actually fit. So it works pretty well, but you do end up with this sort of lip around it. Now you can see one side I probably was a bit tight on that, and it's fraying, and there's a risk that it might come apart. This other stuff I could trim it back if I wanted to, which I did do on this 1U. So the 1U has actually been trimmed, but it still has a risk of fraying. what my wife said to me was you can use fray-stop, which essentially is this stuff that's used in fabric work, that crafting or sewing and stuff like that, where it will bond the edges of your material to stop it from fraying. Now, I haven't actually applied that yet, but what I was thinking of that you could do to this stuff as well to give it a bit of protection would be to just hit it up with some kind of clear coat material. Now, I know you can get stuff like the Scotch Guard, which is designed to impregnate into fabric to make it easier for cleaning, because it soaks into the fabric, coats the fabric strands, and therefore when it gets dirty it's really easy to wash. And if you spray something like Scotch Guard onto this, then it means, you know, you can type on these keycaps, you can work with these keycaps, and they'll be easy to wash because they've got that plastic coat on it. So I've just gone and trimmed that up a bit so it's a little bit neater. How does that look? Well, you know, that's really up to your personal style if you like that kind of thing. So I'll just put that one U there, and of course I can't fit that one there. So what I'll do is I'll maybe try and pull one of these out. One of these will pop out, won't they? Yeah, there we go. So that'll pop out, and I'll just sit that onto that stem there. Okay, so you know, it sits, it works. It's a little bit, I don't know, quiche, crafty. Maybe it's not everyone's thing, but if it is your kind of thing and you want to show off something a little bit more individualism and you want something that shows off your needlework skills, then there's no reason why you can't do this. I have a lot of grabbag keycaps, which is why I can drill holes into keycaps and I'm not going to feel bad about it at all. Now, if you had a space bar or an ISO enter or a 2U return or enter shift 275, it has a lot of real estate that you can play with. And you can actually probably get something a bit bigger, a bit more detailed, a bit more colorful to it. I probably wouldn't want to go and do a whole set, but if you wanted a labor of love, kind of like heirloom quilts and things like that, and if you want to do proper embroidery, definitely you could do this. If you had an embroidery machine and you set the boundary of the edges and you use the embroidery machine to actually do them as patches, and you either heat glued them on or stitched them through the keycap, that's another option too. So going back to this first keycap that I showed the underside, where I tried to drill it on the top and it was really jank, you can see how horrible that was. What I did here, and the reason why you're seeing the actual Aida cloth that goes all the way around, is because I fully wrapped it. This was another harebrained idea of mine because, you know, there's the board podcast, and the reason why you're seeing the 1, the 2, the 3, and the 4 is because it's actually the 4th anniversary of the board podcast's existence as a podcast. So I was just making these for a bit of a celebration thing, might end up doing a giveaway for these, but I fully wrapped it, and then I really badly stitched the edges because it was like a net, it was all spread out. And then I actually drilled corner holes, and I used the corner holes to secure and pin the actual Aida cloth, and so it doesn't come off, it's fully, you know, attached on it. Once again, this hasn't been treated, it hasn't been sprayed, but it gives you the idea that if you have a high profile, because this is a SA row 3 profile keycap, and you wanted to utilize the sides of the keycap to have more of a scene, you know, to show off a pattern or, you know, your needlework, then this is a potential method as well. You just have to make sure that your seams are going to line up and seal, and you can either glue it on or you can stitch it on or something like that. Now, I'm not the greatest craft person here, and I fully know that. I acknowledge that that's not going to be the case. But I guess from my perspective, what this video is doing is really showing you options, right? What you can actually do with a bit of creativity and imagination with some really simple ideas. If you want to customize something super duper, maybe as a gift for somebody who is into keyboards but also likes needlework, craftwork, cross-stitching, embroidery, whatever it is, and you don't have a resin printer, you don't want to go and buy somebody else making resin keycaps, because the resolution on that grid pattern is not necessarily going to give you what you want, this is a way to do it. Just get some cheap grab bag keycaps, some generics, you know, OEM keycaps, whatever. Bung in a couple of holes using a hand vise if you've got them, or you can get them from craft shops, and you can go nuts. You can do all sorts of designs, all sorts of colors and whatnot. Existing works, cut them, trim them, stitch them on. So there you go, there you have it. My take on cross stitch or embroidery keycaps in a different way compared to how Billy Rubin designed hers. So yeah, if you like this kind of stuff and you want to see me do more weird, wacky creations, opportunities, come up with different concepts and things like that, of course, please hit that like button below, because it really helps with this channel's growth and it being shared to more people and being suggested on more view lists and screens and things like that. And of course, if you want to keep track of the kind of wacky things that I do, hit that subscribe button and the bell notification so you get to see all the other things that I come up with and create as well. So do go check out Billy Rubin's channel. Link is going to be in the description below. Well, when I say channel, I mean website, and hopefully you know, there'll be links to her other sources. Does some really amazing stuff, really great person, and would love for all of my viewers here and supporters here to be able to support her and her work as well. So thank you very much for checking out this video, and as usual, until next time, happy clacking.